This is Les Brown, Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. Welcome to Visions for a Child's Heart with Evelyn Polk. This is a program that will change your life.
Rachel's weeping for her children. Rachel's weeping. Somehow someone's got to save them. Save the children. And if you say that love the answer, why don't we begin? Or will we just end?
Hi, this is Evelyn Polk, and welcome to Visions for a Child's Heart. I am actually on location, on the road. This is National Adoption Month. However, I have an opportunity to do a different type of interview, and my special guest today, who has been so endearing, to invite me into her home here in Fort Lauderdale Plantation, Florida. Welcome, Ms. Kandee G.
Hi there, thank you. I'm really happy to have you here. I love what you're doing, and I'm excited to share what I can to help you make a difference.
Great, and I appreciate it. When we were just talking about when I first met you, actually we just met face to face like a couple of months ago.
Which is amazing for me, I know, because we've spoken so often, right?
Right, probably about 2 or 3 years now.
Exactly.
And the first time I recalled hearing you tell sort of your life story was during a conference call, which is called 24-Hour Motivation.
That's right.
Which was hosted by Will Kaysen in California. And you were one of the speakers. And one of the things that endeared me to you and want to follow up more you was you're talking about being a young adult or older adolescent transitioning into adulthood. And because I work with foster youth who sometimes have difficulties, and some are just really gifted, but they don't have the support, and others, you know, they're just sort of fledgling along. And so I'm interested in your sharing your story that might be helpful to some of our young people.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about my story is very true. I grew up in a household that was very dysfunctional. I didn't grow up with my primary parents, my mother and my father. I lived with aunts and uncles and grandparents and those folks. And I graduated high school at a very young age. I was 17 when I graduated high school. And Evelyn, the day after I graduated high school, they said, "We're done with you. We've done our job. Go find a place and live now." I was like, you know, I'm still a child. And so I had a car at the time because I worked my senior year in high school. And so I said, all right, they don't want me here. I'm going to find a place, and I'm going to have those things that other folks want. I'm going to have happiness and relationships and families, and all those things are important. Got in my car, and I drove from Pennsylvania to South Florida. When I hit South Florida, I had my car and $40 to my name. And said, all right, here I am, world. I'm here. Let's get started. And I was looking for happiness, and I was looking for all those things that we want. And instead of finding real happiness, I found a whole lot of hard and a whole lot of heartache. Evelyn and I got involved with the wrong folks, doing a whole lot of the wrong things. A lot of my friends, and my friends and associates and folks I called my family, ended up in jail. And if I didn't find a way to figure out how to mentor myself into this thing called adulthood, I was headed down the same path they were.
Now, did you have siblings?
I did have siblings, but unfortunately, all grew up in different households, just kind of spread out all over the place. And so there wasn't a real connection with siblings at all. And I was out on my own at a very young age.
So by today's standards, when I interview people in our age group, technically, you would have been a foster child had it not been for your family.
Exactly. I was in essence a foster child inside the homes of relatives that didn't really want me. Oftentimes foster homes are like, we want to take a child in. They were like, we're just doing this because we have to, and the day we don't have to do it anymore, we're done.
So that must have impacted your sense of self.
There was no self-esteem. Honestly, the conversation that was in my head that I would tell myself was that two things that I remember today, and I think about it today, thinking about where I am today. Two things were I used to see myself as invisible, like nobody could really see me. And this is true, I saw myself as an insignificant speck of dust. You know, that's just part of the story. That's not today. That's clearly not today.
So many of our young people feel that way, and that carries into adulthood unless you have some life-changing experience such as you have. So you were 17, you were in Florida. had to figure out how to mentor yourself, and what changed?
Well, you know, what I did is I found a job, had to stay with some folks, found a job, made enough money to get my own apartment, and understand, I, was very young, but, and I started waiting tables. It's a tourist town, got a job waiting tables, and worked hard to save money to do what it was that I needed to do. And as I said, I got involved with a lot of the wrong folks. Just the party crowd and what things were doing was something I so didn't need to be involved with. But I will tell you, at the time, it felt good, Evelyn, to be involved with these people.
Just to have somebody
was accepting me. They were bringing me into their group, so whatever they were involved in was okay with me. But it wasn't okay. And after bouncing around in this kind of environment for a couple of years, just one day, I had a huge aha. Evelyn, I will tell you, I opened up the newspaper, and there was a big sting all over the state of Florida, and they had arrested hundreds of folks. And I opened it up, and I'm reading this article, and they had names in there, so many of the people that I knew. And you want to talk about a wake-up call? That from one day to the next, I said, I can't do this. This is pretty scary stuff. So now I found myself kind of out there on my own again. I had no family to turn to. I didn't have my group anymore because I refused. I mean, it just really, really scared me. And so I started saying, what is it that I need to do? And then I knew somewhere in here, I needed someone to teach me how to be an adult. I can phrase it that way today.
Right.
It was different then.
It was an inner knowing, but you didn't know how to.
Somebody, please teach me how to do this thing called life. And so I started studying everything. And over the course of 15 years, I had studied mainstream religions, alternate religions. I was embedded in this study of more than personal growth, how to make life work, motivational speakers, self-help gurus, like Stephen Covey, anyone that I could. And there was one particular piece of information that kept coming to me that I gravitated to, and it was this thing that when you can change your thinking, you can change everything. And so Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, I studied everyone and started to make some changes in my life. I started to make some changes and started to move on and started to build a life.
So what was that process? First was reading, because a lot of young people say, I don't know, that you sought out what was already available. Everybody can find the book.
Sought out. Okay. Sought out because I was desperate. I needed to find a way to make this thing called life work. And I didn't want to be embedded in a culture that was going to take me down a path to absolute self-destruction. Somewhere inside that thought of I want to have a real life was in there somewhere. And so the more I started to focus on me, the more that I started to come to understand, the more I started to utilize these things. And then also went out and started to build a career, build a life. And what's interesting about the story and where the real impact happened for me really was 15 years down the road, because I had gotten a career, got married, had a beautiful baby girl, and was now becoming a part of the community and really learning how to be an adult. And this was 16 years ago. And you would say this is unbelievable, the next piece that I would tell you, but through a series of circumstances, everything that I built, my home, I had savings accounts, I had started a retirement account, I had all of these things going on, and through a series of circumstances, everything I had was made to go away once again, along with my ex-husband. I had married by that time. And, I tell the story where I walked around my home and all I had left, I opened the refrigerator. The only thing I had left to eat, Evelyn, was a jar of peanut butter. And I opened up the refrigerator and I looked inside. I was almost shocked. I can see it today. Kind of shaking my head, and I picked up that jar of peanut butter and I held it in my hand. And I just kind of shook my hand and I looked up to my God and I said, I refuse to be a victim to life's circumstances. I will be a victor regardless of what happens in my life. I had this 4-month-old baby girl sleeping in her crib, and remember, I had no family to turn to, was losing my home, and I sat there, and as I looked at that jar of peanut butter, it was truly my defining moment. And when I sat down and I meditated and I prayed and I started to think of what it was that I had, maybe I was losing my stuff. Okay. But what I came to understand was that I had 15 years of study and incredible laws and principles. Now, what's interesting about that is a lot of folks will get knowledge, new knowledge,
but not put it into practice.
That's right. They don't always apply it. It's not knowledge that's power, it's the use of knowledge that's power. And so I took a look at what it was, this incredible knowledge that I'd gained, and I made a decision that I was going to engineer systems to keep my conscious and my unconscious thinking on track. And can I tell you, I went from being a broke, homeless, single mother to, in a very short period of time, stepped out and I built a sales team in real estate up to the top 4% in the world within my company. What's fascinating is, in a very short period of time, and I mean over the course of several years, I began to make as much money in a month as a lot of folks make in a year. And I sat back and said, whoa, this stuff really works. It really works if you use it. And so it became just a passionate study to continue to study thought transformation and find ways to implement it. And several years ago, I decided that it was time I needed to step out and do what it is that I take what it is that I do and share it with folks so they can make changes.
Now, you talked about utilizing the principles, but at one point you said you also looked up and said to your God. Because a lot of people tend to feel that you get these principles, but it's just you working the principles, and there's no divine intervention.
Thank you for saying that. The truth is, I believe that my life is so divinely guided, and when I really learned how to surrender, when I really learned how to do my part, and when I learned how to allow God to do His part, it's just kind of a magic formula that comes together. Certainly there's work to be done. Absolutely there's work to be done. But the truth is there's a place where I truly believe in. I don't even want to call it divine intervention. It's not intervention. It's help and it's support and it's belief. And a lot of that I know comes from building your own personal belief in yourself and in your God, whatever you so deem that to be.
So, and you talked about the peanut butter, and I was telling you before, I thought the title of your book was Peanut Butter to Private Jet. And I was saying peanut butter jelly. You said you didn't even have the jelly.
That's right. That's right. And what you're saying is true. Somebody else who was doing a magazine story on me, they coined the phrase when they heard my story. They said, wow, from peanut butter to private jets, because most places I go, now I travel by private jet. Hello. And you can say that is a real earmark of success. And you can be here in my beautiful home and you can say, Kandee G, this is a real earmark of success. But truthfully, I will tell you what I believe my true earmark of success is being in a place to allow my life to unfold in a way where it revealed myself to me and opened up to my passion, my purpose, my assignment, and what I've been asked to do. And my real earmark of success is that I get to spend every single day doing what I believe I've been called to do.
Yes.
The stuff, the house, the planes, it's cool, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I was in the airport the other day. I was doing an event somewhere, and I flew commercially, and I'm like going, oh my God, I haven't done this in so long. This is really hard.
It's like catching the bus after having a nice car.
Exactly. And so that stuff is fun, but I will tell you clearly, in my heart of hearts, my priorities are straight.
And that's the beautiful part. And that's what I want our young people to know. One, that it's possible. But, as a Christian, the scripture that comes to my mind, it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all things will be added. And it's like, okay, get your relationship with, get an understanding of who you are, why you're here, who is guiding you. And then, once you get that, everything else falls into place. Not falls into place, but it lines up with your being focused.
And that is absolutely the truth. And I will tell you, when I go back to my, my peanut butter days, and I will tell you, the one thing that really kept me going was my faith, my personal relationship with God. And you're so right. Get that in place. Get that in place, and you will always have what you need to move forward.
And that believing is like we were driving here, and it started to rain. First, it was like unsettling because it was like I could sit there, I couldn't find the windshield wipers because it was a rental car. And then the next cloud storm that we came through, I just hit the thing and I looked at my friend Harriet and I said, each victory helps you, some other to win. You know, the song, yield not to temptation. And I think that when we go through life struggles, as we follow what we know as our calling, and when stuff happens, after a few times it doesn't bother you because you know it's going to turn out.
Right. And also the interesting thing was for me, when I got to the place where I lost my home, I was homeless. I was absolutely homeless. And I didn't die, and I still found things to eat, and I still found places to go, and I went, wow, this is pretty cool being at this spot. Because being here and knowing I can do anything from here, it's going to make everything else just easy.
Yes. So what would you say to young people, teens who are emancipating or moving out, because some get put out, as you said, you know, by the system, and they didn't have anyone to begin with in the first place. Others are not sure. What would you say?
First thing you do is work on getting your thinking right. Find whatever it is that you need to do to make sure that you fill not just your conscious thinking, but also your unconscious mind with things that are positive and productive all the time. I think one of the biggest problems with our world today is that we live inside so much negativity, and folks do not understand that what goes on in here is what creates our world out here. The music that you listen to, the video games that you watch, the movies that you watch, the whatever it is so important that you take those things and you make sure that you're feeding your things positive and productive all the time. By the same token is to feed yourself self-affirming talk. Things where talk to yourself, let you know the good pieces about you. And it is so important, that self-talk piece, because the things that I have come to understand about how our thinking creates our outside world. Evelyn, I've studied mainstream religions, alternate religions, philosophy, psychology, neuroscience, quantum physics, cellular biology, and it all tells us the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a caveat. What most folks don't understand is the non-conscious part of our brain takes up 87% of this gray matter that's going on in here. 96 to 98% of what we create out here, it said, has been credited to the non-conscious thinking. And so what happens is if you're constantly feeding yourself things that are negative, self-loathing, self-doubt, it just like just adds this bad software into your own hard drive.
Which brings me to the other point that I was going to ask you about, because I look at children, and sometimes we're in the grocery store, any place, and you hear adults just speaking so negative to these little precious little babies, and it just tears my heart up. You know, and there's how they talk to, and they're just little kids. So then they grow up talking like that. What would you say to adults, foster parents, caregivers, parents, teachers, mentors?
If you have to reprimand someone, 5 times tell them something good about what they've done. It is so important. It is so important. And I know, even with my own daughter, who's 16 now, and
with a driver's license and a car.
She's driving now. Yeah, exactly true. And I'm so proud of her because of the way she thinks and she processes things. But I so understood the power of me as a parent to help mold her self-esteem. And so that even if there was a time where I had to reprimand her or yell at her or whatever, I would always say, you know, I might be mad at you now, but you need to understand you're the most important person in my entire life. I love you the most. I love you the most. And I would let her know this over and over and over again. And I would also tell her when there were certain things when I would not let her do, I would tell her all the time. I would say, look, God gave me a job. My job is to keep you safe. And in order for me to do my job to keep you safe, I can't allow you to do this thing over here. And so she understands that that's my job.
And there's an order to anything. And so you are also accountable to someone else. It's not that you're trying to be God, that you are accountable to God to do your job correctly with her.
And I would always tell her, when she would go off to school and when she was young, we would have a daily promise that we would say together. But I would always tell her, I'd say, Katie, what's your job today? And she says, to make my day the best day ever. And we would have a promise that we would say every morning. When she was little, we don't do as much today because she's a big high school kid now, you know. But we would say, I promise to drink every dawn like a cup of spring water. I promise to take in every sunset like supper. I promise to make today my best day ever, to not take one breath or one person for granted. I promise to dance every dance like nobody's watching. I promise to love like I'll never get hurt. And I promise to play until I can't play anymore. And so we would say that promise every day on the way to the car, on our way to school. So you have to create your own culture. And so, that's the culture we decided we wanted to create. Create a loving, caring environment. Don't buy into 24/7 constantly negative news. Teach your kids.
The television, all of that.
I know, it's true.
And it's difficult in this day and time because everything is so commercialized and the kids are being sucked in, and you're trying to allow them to be knowledgeable of the world, but not to be sucked into it. And so what we give has to be something that touches their hearts that they can hold on to forever.
Very much so.
This is your book.
Yes, it is.
Now Boarding, Next Stop, Your Remarkable Life.
Exactly.
And actually, you just said something about make every day your great day. I know don't you usually end your radio show with that?
Actually what I say, when I end my radio show, it's usually just get on out there and live life like you mean it.
Okay. But I've heard the other one before, too.
Make today your best day ever. Oh, yeah, I've done that one, too.
Yeah.
But always something positive and productive to think about.
So tell us about your book, Now Boarding, Next Stop, Your Remarkable Life.
Well, I'm very proud of that book because I have sold clearly thousands and thousands and thousands of copies, and the response is extraordinary because it's a little bit of a self-help memoir, but it's a guidebook, and folks use it to guide themselves to that place where they want to create their own remarkable life. I spent over 30 years studying these laws and principles. You can get the mini version of what you can use to change your life in these 200 pages, and so I'm very proud of that. Having studied these laws and principles for so long, I, along the way, formatted a way that I could teach it to other folks. As a matter of fact, I now have a company where not only am I a speaker, and as you know, I have a radio show and a TV show called Nothing But Good News, but also I do something called a vision program, and I walk folks through the process to uncover their productive and unproductive, conscious and unconscious thinking, and then help them create a tool that they can utilize every single day to rewrite the hard drive back here that's keeping them from getting what they truly want out here. But I'll also tell you that entire system is inside Now Boarding.
You can find the information on her website, which is KandeeG.com.
Exactly.
KandeeG.
Exactly. KandeeG.com. I know. I do the same thing. I count E's. How many did I say? It's true.
I love it. I love it. You said something that triggered a thought for me. I know we just have a few minutes to wrap up. We're talking about rewiring, reprogramming your program, the things you say to your daughter. I'm curious to know, with your daughter having been raised in an environment which is so different from yours, how does her upbringing impact her relationship with her peers? Because I'm sure most people haven't had that.
Great question. She is a little bit of a lone ranger, but she has lots of friends. And so what I mean by that is she doesn't have to gravitate to a group. If a group is doing something that she doesn't like, she'll just walk away and say unacceptable behavior, which I'm very proud of her for. We recently had a situation with a party and around homecoming, and she was invited. And for her, it's not about the cool kids or the pretty kids or to be her friends. Everybody across the board, she's got friends of all races and of all, she's got seniors and freshmen, and if there's a place that she connects, then you're her friend. And a couple of the people that she associates with aren't part of the cool crowd. And so there was a party for her homecoming, and so Caitlin said that she was going to spend time with these folks, and they'd stop at the party afterwards. Well, she was disinvited. She was uninvited from the party, and she clearly said, for me, what's less important than to go to the party, what's more important is that I stand up for my real friends. And so I see her do those types of things over and over. And so I'm just very proud of how she processes information.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Of course, when you're the mom, your kid is just. I'm very proud of you.
Can't touch it.
Can't touch it, exactly. Exactly.
Was there anything you would like to say to our audience as we close?
What I would like to say is, here's what I want you to know. And you said something earlier. You said you wanted folks to know that it's possible. Anything that you want to do in this life, anything that you want to have, that you want to do, and that you want to be, you have at your fingertips. We are creators. We have the ability to make manifest. We have the ability to bring into being. All you have to do is do the work that you need to do and believe. Believe in yourself, believe in your God, and have the willingness to get out there and try.
Thank you. I'm just so inspired by not only your message, but your actions. Whenever I've called you, actually I email. I've called, and by the time I finish email, I have a phone call. You say, hey, I got your email. I don't do emails. I like to talk. So you're just a loving, genuine person, and I appreciate that so much. And I think the other part about when you make up your mind that you're going to do something, God sends the people. And I consider you and our cameraman like two of the people that God has sent, to inspire me. And it's not just what you say, it's how you live your life and how you embrace others. So I just want to thank you for that. And I would like to say, to those who are watching, that one, you are important in somebody's life. And as you pursue what it is that you desire to do, God will place someone in your life along the path. Just take the step of faith, and just my sitting here today is a pure example of that. So we hope you've enjoyed our program, and we want to thank you for watching. Do something special for a child's heart. God bless. Bye-bye.
Mother's